Good evening, everyone. My name is Shaminda Pereira, the Manager of Learning and Resource Development at Volunteer BC. I'm joined today by all of my colleagues, and we warmly welcome you to the BoardWalk Symposium. Today, we celebrate the graduation of our BoardWalk participants as they transition from being a participant in the program to a potential candidate for a board or committee in social purpose organizations. Let's begin our session with the land acknowledgement. Shan. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we work, that we know as Peel, is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. For thousands of years, Indigenous peoples inhabited and cared for this land. In particular, we acknowledge the territory of the Anishinaabeg, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, Ojibwe-Chippewa peoples, the land that is home to the Métis, and most recently, the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, who are direct descendants of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land, and by doing so, give our deepest respect to its first inhabitants. Looking at today's attendance, we are thrilled that we are joined by those who support the program, the participants, of course, and their families, and also those who are new to the BoardWalk program. To briefly describe what BoardWalk is all about and what we have done so far, here are some snapshots of BoardWalk.
Happy that the Ontario Trillium Foundation, through the Government of Ontario, has been able to help. I know COVID's been a very difficult year.
Introduce not just is who's in the room, it's how do people get to be in the room? How do some people have more privilege than others? That allows some people to have access and others to not.
Within your culture of innovation, you need to bring a design thinking approach to develop new programs. This means not starting with how can I be innovative, but instead starting from what problem needs to be solved.
Having a vision for yourself as an individual. Normally that's never shown up for us. But I challenge you, what's the vision that you'd like to set for yourself?
Been a treasurer on a few boards. So board members are ultimately responsible for the financial affairs of the organization. And it is board members. It's not the treasurer is ultimately responsible.
And the moment I joined up with the board, it suddenly clicked for me. I went, oh my gosh, this is how I can serve back to the community. I'd done donations and volunteering and that sort of thing, but where could I really serve in a strategic and impactful, meaningful way?
One little organization that houses and serves 12 people need all sorts of skill sets and competencies to run the house on a non-for-profit basis.
So to understand the full picture of how non-for-profit organization would, the board of directors would operate in Canada here. And I believe, as I said, it's really a very professional, well-set training structure that I've seen so far with the BoardWalk.
So let's see what the participants who've been through the program had said. And folks, from time to time, we will be having these testimonials on screen. And when you see it on screen, it will be the full text that is to facilitate in case on a later day you're watching this recording again, that you will you'll be able to read the full text. But today, during the session, I will highlight the main points. So this participant has said, I like the opportunity presented to see a board meeting in action. And in many of the testimonials and the feedback we got, they appreciated this. They really valued that experiential component. And there's another participant who said it prepares you thoroughly for various decision-making considerations in a not-for-profit organization. Many of the BoardWalk participants, they come with, they're already qualified and they come with a certain set of skills. What we want to do is to give them that platform to sort of apply those skills and support and build an organization's capacity, but to give that opportunity for them to do so. This participant also says it's most relevant for climate change, sustainability, diversity, equity, and inclusion perspectives. Sean, I believe we have another testimonial coming up. So this particular participant said the material will help me to execute the role of a board member, and also that they appreciated the flexible schedule in following the program. The next one, Sean. And this participant says the modules gave us a good idea about the board's significance. That is how a board add value, build capacity in the organization, and why their role is so important for the organization. Again, they're saying, witnessing a board in action, which was a great learning experience for them. And that the program also gives them an opportunity for growth and self-development. Next one, Sean. So basically, when Volunteer MBC looked at the BoardWalk program, volunteering on a board in essence is a skills-based volunteering, but on a strategic and leadership capacity. One of our values is providing opportunities and fostering diversity and inclusion and equity in the community. We want to remain true to our value, and the program captured every aspect that we can provide an opportunity for them, for newcomers and racialized communities to be engaged in community leadership. And with that, Sean, we go to the next slide and I hand over the session to you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you again for being here, and congratulations on behalf of our team to the entire BoardWalk participants. I am here because I get the honor of introducing our keynote speaker. Before I do that, can I just ask everyone who's not speaking to mute themselves? We're getting some background noise. So we're joined today by Anne-Marie Pham. Anne-Marie has worked with diverse communities and workplaces for over 20 years. She has a deep understanding of issues and opportunities related to diversity and inclusion, and specializes in mobilizing, educating, and sharing the latest research and inclusion and promising practices on EDI, equity, diversity, inclusion in the workplace. Anne-Marie brings a unique set of skills and perspectives, and she's worked in not only in the nonprofit world, but in the for-profit world, bringing diversity and inclusion. She's been an inclusion lead for Spectra Energy and the City of Calgary, and a trainer and facilitator in HR and skills development. And she's very engaging and will benefit very much from her presence. Not only she has all of that experience, she's also a wife and mother of two, as an avid community leader supporting civic participation, mentoring, and leadership development, especially among immigrants. A few other key things about her that I think are notable. She's a serial community builder, believes in the power of volunteering and activism. She's a board director with the Canadian Race Relations Foundation, with her term potentially being renewed after a 2021 conclusion. And then she's a current member of the City of Calgary's Anti-Racism Action Committee, co-founder of the Asian Professional Network of Calgary and Calgary Vietnamese Youth Association, and has lived experiences from Vietnam, France, and Canada. And she's going to be talking today a little bit about how diversity is your superpower. With that, I'm going to hand it to Anne-Marie, and Anne-Marie, go ahead and feel free to share your screen.
Thank you so much, Sean, for the warm introduction. Good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure for me to be with all of you today and for spending about 15 or 20 minutes for my keynote presentation. So let me share my screen. And you should be able to see it now. Yep. Wonderful. Yes, I see the heads nodding. I appreciate that. Great. So when I was thinking about the title for today's presentation, I was thinking I think we have to really, first of all, acknowledge that, you know, the graduates from this program, you're all very diverse, right? And the racial diversity, the ethnic, the cultural diversity that you bring, whether you are a new immigrant to Canada or you've lived here for a long time, or you're second, third, fourth generation immigrant, that is your superpower. That is one of the many assets and skill sets that you can bring to the organization that you're volunteering with, either on the board or on a committee. And so really diversity is your superpower, right? Organizations need diversity on their boards and committee to be more relevant and more adaptable and responsive to the growing diverse needs of their markets, their citizens, their customers, their employees, their volunteers, their stakeholders. And so I'm not just saying that because it's a nice thing to say, it's actually really important for organizations to think about critically and intentionally how they can embed diversity and inclusion in an organization. And so to provide you with the tools to understand your role in diversity and inclusion, I want to share with you some key concepts to really help you to provide you with a framework, common terminology, and context for how you can position yourself in your future volunteering role. So first of all, when we talk about diversity, what is it? Okay, diversity is really all the ways in which you differ. Right, and there are so many dimensions of your diversity. So let me share with you examples of what that looks like. You've got your personality, right? Some of us are like, we consider ourselves to be funny, gregarious, inquisitive, curious, artistic. So that is really a big part of your identity. Then you've got internal dimensions, and those are very core to who you are. Oftentimes, you do not have the ability to change many aspects of those internal dimensions. Things like race and ethnicity, your sex, your mental and physical ability. Some of those things can evolve a little bit over time. I mean, as we get older, we may end up having a disability, right? Your age, your place of origin, whether you're naturally introverted or extroverted, right? And those things are hard to change, but they're so core to who you are. And the law says that, you know, we cannot discriminate people based on aspects of who they are, of their diversity that they cannot change or control. And that's why there's human rights legislation to protect people on these grounds, right? To make sure that they're not being discriminated against based on their gender or their ethnocultural background, for example. Then you've got external dimensions, and these are the dimensions of your diversity that you are more in control of. They're more likely to evolve over time, such as your education, your income level, your recreational habit, whether you have children or not, whether you're a caregiver or not, your religious background, right? Where you live, where you decide to work. And those tend to evolve more over the course of your lifetime. And in fact, when you go to work, you're much more likely or comfortable to talk about these external dimensions than you would be talking about your internal dimensions of diversity, right? If your workplace is open, celebrates difference, has inclusive language and culture, you're much more likely to share elements of your internal diversity, right? And so think about it, your race and ethnicity, you know, some of the core factors that brings you together, right? Your interest in giving back to the community, your volunteering, right? All the skill sets and the experience that you brought with you from different countries, from different cultures, those are excellent. And organizations really can benefit so much from hearing from your experiences to expand their mindsets and understand other people's dimensions of diversity. Then in an organization, whether you work there or you volunteer there, you have to think about the organizational dimensions. And those are like, you know, how long you've been in that organization, what is your title, your seniority, do you have a management role or not, how much visibility or not, do you work in headquarters or in an offsite location, right? What is your pay band? Those are really important because they do impact on how you see yourself and how other people see you in the organization. Okay, and finally, global dimensions, right? Over the last couple of years, we've seen global events that have significantly impacted the way that we see the world, what we consider to be important, and what we value, right? So in addition to that, with the COVID pandemic, the value of health and safety is very important. We've all seen, you know, since the murder of George Floyd, the discovery of Indigenous graves, the rising anti-Asian sentiments due to the COVID pandemic, the killing of the Muslim family in London that was ran over by a car. I mean, you name it, you know, it's been going on over and over again. We understand that these are phenomena that are happening, right? That are really changing the way that we have to reevaluate what our key values are, and it's changing the national discourse in our society as well. So these are examples of all of the ways in which each and every one of us differ, right? My dimensions of diversity will be different from Lucinda's, from Angela's, from Lee's, from Sean, from all of you. Think about these dimensions as the iris in your eye. This is literally the lens in which you see the world. And so the way I see the world is going to be very different from the way that you see the world, right? I have my own experiences, and as a result of that, I am an expert of my own diversity, but I am not an expert of anyone else's diversity. And that's why we've got blind spots. And to acknowledge that we may have biases or blind spots is the first step to create, you know, a culture of openness and learning and sharing. And so keep that in mind when we're talking about diversity. It's truly all of these dimensions and even more, because maybe not all of them are captured in this particular slides. So essentially, diversity is a fact. That's the reality. As long as you've got two people in the room, you're going to have diversity. But inclusion is a choice. You can choose as a board member, as a committee member, as a colleague in a workplace or in the communities, you can choose to work with diverse communities. You can choose to actively seek a diverse base of donors for your organization. You can intentionally choose to expand the talent pool to be more reflective of the diversity of the people affected by, you know, the mandate of your organization. You can choose to review your policies to enable access for people who perhaps historically haven't had that access. It's your choice, right, as a leader of an organization to create an inclusive work environment. And I love this graphic. I found this on LinkedIn. And for me, this is a nice visual representation of what inclusion is. Right? It's not exclusion. An organization that does not invite diversity, right? It's very homogeneous. It has a common set of norms and values and doesn't accept difference. Inclusion is also not integration, although integration is an improvement over exclusion. Integration still expects diverse individuals to fit the culture and the mold of the organization. So oftentimes you go to an organization and people are like, is she or is he a good fit for the organization? And you really have to question them when they say that. Do you mean you want everybody to think and be the same? Or are you talking about something else? Fit for skills and qualifications? Absolutely. But when you talk about culture, I think that you want to add to the culture of your organization. You don't want cultures to fit. Okay, so inclusion is truly about not just welcoming individuals in the organization, but actually actively creating a culture, a language, practices, policies, and programs that truly invite difference and sees difference as an asset. Okay, so how do you get to inclusion? There are many ways that you can do that. And of course, we don't have, I could spend days talking about this, but I would like to share with you a couple of key concepts. One is around cultural competence. Okay, how many of you have heard this term cultural competence before? Yes, carrying your hands up, that's wonderful. There's a few of you, great. Well, absolutely. Cultural competence is vital, especially when we're talking about diversity in culture, and culture is defined, it could like there's cultural differences in by gender, for religion, by race, ethnicities, countries, right? So it's not just culture in the sense of ethnocultural, but there are different cultures that we can talk about here. So it's the broader definition of culture. And cultural competence is really the ability to understand, appreciate, and interact effectively with people from cultures or belief systems that are different from your own. And when we want to foster a culture of inclusion, part of that means that we have to be more culturally competent. Okay, and the key components of cultural competence are awareness, attitude, knowledge, and skills. So the first one around awareness is first and foremost, and I may say that this is probably where you want to start if you haven't undertaken this journey yet, although I think some of you probably have some of these already, right? But start whenever you can with awareness. You are a cultural being, right? So try to understand your own cultural worldview. And certainly, the dimensions of diversity graphic that I shared with you earlier can, if you take a moment to think about your dimensions and what's important to you and how that shows up in the workplace, how that shows up in the way that you value things, you will be much more knowledgeable about your culture. And I find that, people who are immigrant, who come from another country, have a lot more awareness or consciousness about them being a cultural being. And why do you think that's the case? It's because they have been uprooted into the dominant Canadian culture. So they see automatically the differences between their culture and the dominant culture in Canada. But when I do cultural competence coaching for a lot of people who are, Canadian, white, Caucasian, who have been here for generations, and I ask them, what's your culture? Sometimes they struggle. They're like hockey, Canadian Molson beer, like skiing, it's not as easy for them to actually speak beyond the things that are visible, beyond the customs and the foods and the flags and the symbols, to talk about the values, the norms, the beliefs and the assumptions that are part of who you are as a cultural being. Okay, the unwritten rules are harder to articulate. And so it's very important for you, if you can, to think about yourself as a cultural being and do that work around understanding who you are and what you believe in, what are your values, what are your experiences. The second component of cultural competence is around your attitude. Do you have an open and accepting attitude towards cultural differences, or are you a little bit scared about it, in denial, you try to avoid the conversation, right? Or you're just afraid of saying the wrong thing, right? And so you try to avoid it altogether, right? Some leaders sweep that conversation under the carpet and hope that it will never show up. And unfortunately, that can also lead to a negative impact. Diversity in and of itself does not necessarily lead to inclusion. The more diversity you have in a work environment, the more work we need to do to manage that diversity well, right? To really find ways in which we can be more inclusive. So the attitude is really important. Knowledge is the third component, and that's really trying to be your own scholar, right? Your own educator, learning more about other cultures. What are their values, their norms, the cultural nuances in how they show up, eye contact, body presence, how they view hierarchy, how they make decisions, how they collaborate, right? And if we don't know for sure, we can ask some of our colleagues who are culturally different from us. We can check out movies and documentaries from other countries. We can read stories, we can write journals, we can really put ourselves actively in situations where we can experience cultural difference. And finally, it's about skills, the skills that you can build to be more effective in changing and adapting your frame of reference at the cognitive level and at the behavioral level. And so that takes time. There are situations you may be more comfortable with because you've experienced them before, but cultural competence is very much also about what skills can I learn from past experiences, can I transfer and use that to adapt to new situations. Okay, so that is really important, cultural competence. And cultural competence really fits from different angles. Okay, you have to think about the culture of your organization. You have to think about the culture of your team or your department. Then you have to think about the culture of your client or your colleagues as well, right? Because they could be different from the organizational culture or your own culture. And then you have to put yourself in that space as well, and how the similarities and the differences between those different areas. And the cultural competent practice happens at the intersections of those spheres. Okay. The other thing too is, as you know, we are culturally diverse. We end up in a workplace, on the board, on the committee that may or may not have that much diversity. And so it's really important, as you develop more understanding of yourself and others, to go beyond the surface culture, the things that are visible, such as, whether somebody has an accent or what they eat or drink, how they dress, the music they listen to actually go lower down into the deep culture, their attitudes, their values, their beliefs, their perception. Right? The understanding of how they view hierarchy, how they make decisions, whether or not it's appropriate in their culture to give feedback to a director in front of everyone else in the meeting, how you confer social status, how you express your values for individualism versus the community, right? Your notions of gender roles, of fairness, how you work together to solve problems, how you interpret body language. All of these things are very important. Culture is dynamic, things change over time, and there's a lot of unwritten rules. And so I really encourage you, when you work on the board or committee and you might be the only person who is different from a cultural background, to really try to understand what's underneath the surface level and really try to ask the right questions and not make some quick assumptions or judgment about what are people saying or not saying. Okay, and I have a few more slides. Turning your diversity into your superpower. For this particular one, I want to share with you some interesting research. This study was done in 2016 and done again in 2018. And what they did is they looked at Fortune 500 companies and they look at the diversity on their boards and at the executive level. And what they found is gender diverse companies are 21% more likely than non-gender diverse companies to outperform the national industry median for financial performance. And ethnically diverse companies at the board and executive level are 33% more likely to outperform national industry median for financial performance. Now, you have to ask yourself, I wonder why that's the case, right? Well, that's because when you've got the diversity and those organizations are able to manage that diversity effectively, they're building cultural competency skills, they're building their skills as inclusive leaders. What they find is that the environment is then much more productive. People feel connected, they feel valued for who they are, they can bring their whole self to work, and then they can more openly share diverse experience, perspectives, and ideas. And so innovation improves as a result of that, better decisions are made, and then the company becomes more productive, right? And more sustainable down the road as well, because it's much more relevant and responsive to the changing needs of the market. Lay's potato chips, they were stagnating on the market. And then one day they had the brilliant idea of asking their employees, how can we do better? And they had a lot of Latino employees, and they asked them, and they're like, well, thank you for asking, because your potatoes are very bland. There's no flavor, there's no spices. And so shortly after that, you ended up with different flavors of Lay's potato chips, right? And then they ended up building off of that, and then did contests with the public and say, hey, what should be the next flavor of potato chips, and really engaging the community in that conversation. And that really helped the company to succeed, right? So that's the beauty of diversity and inclusion. If you know how to optimize it, it can have great business outcomes. And just to 2 more slides to wrap up the conversation here. The future workforce looks more and more diverse. Okay, 5 generations in the workplace now, because we live longer and some older folks still want to work, right? And so 5 generations in the workplace. Women are the most educated. 60% of all undergrads are women, and it's been happening for many years now. We have a very low birth rate in Canada, 1.6, but we need 2.1 in order to maintain the population. And hence we rely heavily on immigration to keep the economy going and sustaining. Aboriginal communities, Indigenous communities grows 5 times faster than the general population growth in Canada. And 13% of Canadians self-disclose as having a disability. Okay, this is just a snapshot, right? But this is giving you a sense of how diversity is so important. It's impacting literally almost everyone in the workplace, right? If you're not diverse yourself, you probably know somebody who is, that you really care about, and you want the very best outcomes for them too. Okay, so lastly, I really encourage you to be a champion for diversity and inclusion. You can be a superhero, you know, and if you join a board or a committee, here are some things that you can think about. You can even ask members of the board, and just to get the conversation going. Try to understand the diversity demographics of your workplace. Is there representation in all key functions and at all levels of the organization? Help your board and committee to understand the value of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Promote cultural competence. Encourage the organization to create initiatives to address things like bias, inequity, issues of hiring, retention, advancement. And whenever you can, have the courage to share your story, your perspectives, and your ideas, because that can really create a good environment that will encourage hopefully more change. Review your organization's programs, policies, and practices at the systems level, and reflect on your role as an inclusive leader. Inclusive leadership means, being collaborative, being humble, trying to learn new things, addressing our own biases, and having a lot of courage. And so on that note, I'm wrapping up my presentation. I may have gone over by a few minutes, I apologize, but hopefully that was helpful. And once again, I want to congratulate all of you on your graduation. It's fantastic. And Canada is in a much better position for having all of the new graduates from this program, and the potential impacts that I'm sure you're going to be making in years to come. Thank you so much. And again, thank you, Sean and Volunteer MPC, for inviting me today.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. That was incredible. Working in the non-for-profit sector for a long time, I've heard other people talk about diversity and inclusion, but you have really shed some light in a very insightful way and a very engaging way. I think we all benefited. And I'm encouraging anyone, to leave any comments or thoughts, questions in the chat if they wish for Anne-Marie while we have a minute. I'm going to, at the same time, invite everyone to a little fun activity. Now, this, of course, being a symposium, a celebration of the graduates, it's more than just a just a learning session. If it was just learning session, we would have brought Anne-Marie here for 2 hours, but we've only brought her for 15 minutes, and we want to ask the question of what's your superpower. So to do a little bit of this fun, we can see your answers in real time by going to menti.com. So you can do this in your browser, or you might find it convenient to do on a phone if you got it handy around you. We'll take a little bit of time to do this. Anne-Marie, you're good for time for 2 minutes, right, for this? Okay, all right. I know you've got a lot of a busy schedule. So take a look, and you'll use the code that you see in the corner there. It's 22355185, and you go to menti.com and enter that. So we can all do that on our devices. Feel free to take your time to do that, or open it in a browser tab. It'll work there too. Once you do that, you'll get to answer the question. Now, you can think creatively about this. You can submit more than one answer. I think it lets you submit up to 3 responses to this. So think of a superpower that might relate to your leadership, or maybe relates to your diversity and your skill set. And also think of one that actually relates to being a superhero. If you imagine yourself as a superhero, what would you be able to do? Would you have telepathy? Would you have flight? Let's get some responses and see them come through. Ooh, we're seeing some good answers come through already. I don't know if anybody's looking at my screen anymore, but a lot of words coming in. Anne-Marie, are you seeing this?
Yeah, Mike.
Oh, look at that. Strategy, knowledge, collaboration. Okay, great. Great. Let's give it, I want to give everybody an opportunity. People are still trying to get those typed in there. Teachable, like that choice of word there. Very good. Justice, that's a big topic. Recently in the BoardWalk program, we talked about how we had Abigail giving a learning session, as I saw in the video, and she was talking about how an organization is called JEDI, for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So great word there. And remember to add in a fancy superpower. Okay. All right, people. We can continue to submit them. We'd love to see that. And if you weren't able to access the Menti for any reason, feel free to put it in the chat. I'd love to collect insights from all of you on that. This is just a little bit of fun while we're doing this. I want to say a special thanks to Anne-Marie. If anybody else wants to join me in a video clap, that's also cool. We benefited a lot, I think, and fortunately, this is just the beginning, and we're hopeful that we'll get to connect again. Thanks for joining us all the way from Calgary. I know it's a busy day back out there in Mountain Time. No.
Yes, Mountain Time.
Mountain, right? Okay. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much again, Anne-Marie, and we look forward to being able to connect again on the next occasion.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you again, everybody. I so appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the evening together. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Okay, now we'll be moving on. I'm going to invite our esteemed board president, someone who has been working closely with me. We have a meeting about social inclusion already pegged for next week to keep working on Volunteer NBC's own efforts internally. But we are also, glad to be able to have him pass his remarks on for the benefit of all the BoardWalk program participants and graduates and all of our guests here today. So Jim Waiter, may I please ask you to take the floor?
Thank you, Sean, and good evening, everyone. Congratulations, graduates. I'm so excited for you. And that presentation by Anne-Marie was thoughtful, inspiring, compelling. So much to think about in all of those dimensions that she discussed. And as new potential committee members and board members, if you're not excited to get involved and put your superpowers to work, then if you're not excited today, you will be tomorrow. That's for sure. I am so excited for you. I have been with Volunteer MBC now for 4 years. I've been involved as a director on the board, a committee member. I've been board president for the past 2 years. I've learned a lot, and I'm so proud of the work that Volunteer MBC has done in the communities we serve, for the communities we serve. And a lot of that is due to the hard work, collaboration, and partnership of our staff, and certainly the hard work, collaboration, and partnership of our board members. Anne-Marie spoke about the diversity that we all bring to organizations, and where we've truly benefited is from diversity of thought and skills from each of our board members. Many of you on the call tonight, I recognize from you attending a couple of our live board sessions, so you saw that in action. Making a real difference as a board member, as a committee member, has never been more important than it is today. For social purpose organizations, having an opportunity to play a role in the success of an organization, to impact a person, is not only highly rewarding and satisfying, even more so if you can impact the community in which you live and work. Making a real difference is a big part of committee work and board work. Learning other aspects of a business model and an organization, how they operate, being exposed to in-depth learning about those new models, how other organizations live and breathe, is an incredible opportunity, and another reason that I'm so excited about the journey that you're about to embark on. I'm sure you perhaps didn't start out thinking you wanted to get involved in boards through committee work or being a board director thinking that, hey, this is a great way to grow my network, but I'm telling you, it's a great way to grow your network. Establishing and growing your network, surrounding yourselves with talented and ambitious people is a very effective way to make connections in your community, in your business, in your social life, et cetera, et cetera. It's very powerful. And I think everyone that's involved in board and committee work understands that. So we always collaborate, we're always sharing ideas, different contexts, et cetera, et cetera. Developing leadership skills by learning from others is another exciting part of your journey ahead. Shaping your confidence, your skills, your image and reputation through the work that you do, either on a committee or as a board director, is again just one of the many ways that you can benefit from the involvement, the collaboration and partnership that you're about to embark on. I loved Sean and Shaminda early in the presentation. I think one of the testimonials that talked about our graduates as being real people ready to lead. So I'll leave you tonight by challenging you to stay real, but be ready to lead, and do lead, please. We need you. We need you now more than ever. Thank you and congratulations, grads. Take care.
Thank you again, Jim. That's great remarks, and I feel that it resonates because we've been Volunteer MBC working on ourselves, trying to enhance what we do, but we're an organization that's trying to connect the community and recruiting many volunteers, and this is just something that's just starting. we're learning, we're iterating on this process. This first run of this project has been something that our team has been very honored to work on. We have many projects, but this one is one that we're really excited about because it can be transformative for the community if we can all rally around it. So thank you for sharing, and I echo your congratulations to the graduates. We'll do one more fun activity. If you've still got your device or your browser open on Mentimeter, we'd love to hear some thoughts about what's the first word that comes to your mind when you think about the BoardWalk program. And we'll take some responses on that. Jim, why don't you tell me what's the first word that comes to your mind?
Right now, it's superpower.
That's a good one.
I would say leadership, right? We need.
Okay, so Jim said leadership. Nobody copy that. All right, everybody. If I see one leadership in there, we'll know.
All right. All right.
Credibility. Oh, that's a great one. It adds credibility, perhaps, to the organization. It maybe it's credibility for a person who is seeking to gain and develop and showcase their experience. Service comes in the chat from Oyatunde. Thank you. Confidence, opportunity, innovative, accountability. Oh, that's a big topic that has been covered in a lot of learning sessions, the accountability, giving back, impact. This is a really beautiful word cloud. And as new words get added to it, I'm thinking to myself, what a group we've got. We connect them to the organizations that need them, and we'll be seeing a very different Peel community. And that's one of the great things about what we're working on, is that it's a local effort. So it's people who are here or have connections to Peel region, and they're organizations that we know in Peel. So we're trying to connect people to real initiatives that are pressing and will benefit us as well. So not only will we, benefit from your leadership, but as people who need the community services and different types of assets that are available here in Peel, I think this is going to be huge. So thank you everyone for sharing in the word cloud. Some brilliant observations and participation from everyone here at our symposium. I'm going to turn it back over to Shaminda to take us through a few more insights from our participants and organizations. And thanks everybody once again.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you, Jim, for those insightful and kind words, and also the encouragement that you're giving to our BoardWalk participants. Let's see a few more testimonials from the participants. This person says, informative and eye-opening journey in terms of the importance of the work, which Jim also touched on, and the modules provided by the program are absolutely amazing. Thank you very much to the participant who shared this testimonial. And a little bit about this participant, that testimonial was by a high school student. Now, when we thought of the BoardWalk program, and when we called for applications, and when we were going through the intake process, our mindset was having adults coming to these leadership positions. But also we were surprised that there were some high school students, not post-secondary students. There were some post-secondary students as well, but high school students also applied, and we thought we are going to give them that opportunity. Because in Peel, we are seeing a movement where high school students are taking the initiative to either create their own organizations and then take it into a registered or a reputed not-for-profit organization, and also seeking opportunities to engage in board-led committees or even board positions. And there are some organizations who are forward-thinking, who are engaging students into their boards as well. So to this participant, kudos to you, and also to the organizations who will be engaging high school students and who are engaging high school students, kudos to you as well. Sean, next we look at, we've spoken about how participants felt about our program, but also when we were promoting about the program and also inviting the organizations to consider when the time comes, when they graduate, post-graduation, to recruit our participants as their potential board candidates, immediately we had many organizations, many individuals, many contacts coming back and saying that they like this program because they see the value in the program and how it makes the board recruitment easy. One of the challenges that boards will have is searching for the board members, those who are interested in becoming a board member and taking on leadership roles in the organization. So their effort is spent most on searching. They do reach out to their professional and personal networks, but the volume is high that they need to keep searching in multiple places. So what the BoardWalk program does is, to the organizations, it makes it much more convenient where the search is concerned. For example, such an excellent program as one organization had mentioned, and truly advancing the needs and interests of so many people in Peel, which means they're alluding to the diversity, the equity and inclusion of residents in Peel in boards. And also one organization is immediately getting into action, saying in February, I will be bringing this opportunity forward at the time as we initiate discussions on board and committee renewal and recruitment for 2020-2023. Volunteer MBC is thrilled to have heard all of these testimonials and the feedback that we have received, because we know we are hitting the mark, the right spot with the BoardWalk program. We've got that formula right. Now it's just a matter of, with your support, making it even grander. Okay, now the time that we've all been waiting for. To all the BoardWalk participants, from me as well, congratulations on graduating. Can I invite the audience to give them a clap or a thumbs up through our emoticons? And I'm going to do the video clap as well. Thank you very much, everyone. BoardWalk participants, it was almost a 20-week journey that you all been through, and you've been diligently involved with the program. You've been very engaging, as you saw in the video when when the video was taken through some of the discussions. You saw how much of peer-to-peer communication that was going on. You've been taking the programs. Some of you, even though like running a marathon, even though you are falling behind in certain timelines, you still caught up. That shows the interest that you had in the program. We've Sean mentioned that the program was funded by the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and which means the community of Ontario had come together to bring this program to you, and you were respecting that, and you were recognizing that, and you were doing your part in making sure that you see yourself to completion. Because this is a virtual event and because of time, we won't be bringing each and every one of you forward. But to all of you who've taken the quiz and you've successfully completed, today after 6:30, you would have, when you go after the event, when you go back to your learning portal, you will see your certificate is already up there for you to download. Just look at the quiz and certificate section. If you're finding, if you're having trouble, if you're finding it a challenge to access that, please do contact us, and we will help you to have your certificate available for you to download. So once again, to all BoardWalk participants who are graduating, well done, kudos, and congratulations.
Woohoo!
Sean, next slide. Now we invite Executive Director Corinne Strong to share a few words of encouragement to our BoardWalk participants. Corinne, over to you.
Thank you so much, Shaminda. Huge congratulations. I'm so proud of all of you. I just, it warms my heart to see the commitment that you have all, displayed throughout this, because you all have many things on your respective plates, and to make this a priority, to make wanting to serve the community a priority, is absolutely wonderful. So huge congratulations to you. You have really taken a huge step forward to becoming true community leaders. I applaud you for completing all the professional development courses that were offered. this has definitely prepared you to take on the responsibility of governing the affairs of the organization that you will be joining. And I would encourage you to reference the resources and the courses often, and to continue your learning as you go along your journey. As Volunteer for MBC proceeds with matching you to board or committee roles with our member organizations based on the skill sets that they are hoping to find to fill their knowledge gaps, we're asking you to be patient, because boards typically have a recruitment cycle that centers around their annual general meeting. And for many, that's late spring or the fall, depending on their fiscal year end. And they will, however, recruit committee members and look to replace in-year vacancies. And when you're invited for an interview, keep in mind that this is as much a chance for you to find out whether this role would be a good fit for you, as it is for the organization looking to bring you on board. These are very important roles that will allow you to make potentially a big impact in the organization. So ask lots of questions and make sure that first and foremost, you really feel connected to the cause, the mission, and the vision of that organization. Your leadership roles at times may feel daunting, and it may even seem overwhelming at times, especially with everything else on your plates, as I mentioned earlier, and also the fact that most boards and committees right now continue and have to continue to meet virtually. There is nothing more joyous. And I sit on many boards, and I also have the other perspective as an executive director. But it is so awesome when you finally will have that opportunity to meet in person again. We really miss those relationships, and that's what's going to be making it a little bit difficult for you to build those relationships. But rest assured that as long as you're open and the organization is open and caring, you can make it work. And I think it is also so important to keep your focus on your passion to make a difference. So when everything else is going on, that has to be front and center. You may feel so far removed from the frontline service that the organization and the work that they do, but trust me, every bit of your time, your talent, and your skills that you share and the decisions that you make will help to change lives and improve the community that you live in. If I also could offer one important piece of advice, and it would be to really strive for that open communication amongst the boards and the committee members and between the board and management, and specifically with the executive director and or CEO. The relations between the board and management is so critical to an organization's long-term success. However, where you often see problems arise is when there's different interests of the board and management, and they're not really defined. So common problems would include interference by board members in operational matters. So you have to navigate that very carefully. Boards spending too much time on minute matters and overlooking the major ones that can, severely impact the organization. So to be effective, boards and management, particularly the executive director and or CEO, have to work as a team. You're part of this team to make the organization work. And so that board management teamwork has to have these characteristics, has to be a two-way flow of information sharing, constructive debate. It's important. You can't you're coming with your diverse perspectives. So there has to be constructive debate and really having that commitment to the strategic direction at the end of the day. Effective board management relations really require a good understanding of the organization's mission and vision. You know, the strategic plans, the probability of achieving the outcomes for the organization, and most importantly, each other's expectations and those boundaries that have to be clearly set. This is your opportunity to have your voice heard and to be the torch for BoardWalk and diversity, equity, and inclusion going forward. To be part of the change that needs to happen to build social capital and cohesion among diverse populations. Your perspective matters and will lead to better decision making. This will help you to legitimize the mandate of the organization. It will lead to being more responsive to the community and the clients and the organization that you serve. And most importantly, your voice will contribute to truly promoting that culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout the organization, because it has to come from the top. And that has to be demonstrated by the board first and foremost. So again, huge congratulations to all you graduates. I wish you nothing but success for the future and in your journey. And please, if you ever need advice, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always open to help you out and wish you all the very, very best and take good care.
Thank you, Corinne. Thank you very much for those points, and we couldn't have summed up the day, the event with those words. And particularly, Corinne, you thank you very much for bringing up 2 points that really, hit home for me. One is that the boards may be far away from the front lines, but they are leading from a governance perspective, and they're there to ask the right questions and the hard questions. And even at an interview, it's good to start at the interview during the recruitment to really consider whether the organization is a good fit for you, not in terms of culture, but whether they are a good fit with in terms of the cause that the organization had adopted, and whether you are internalizing that cause. Asking right questions and hard questions does not mean, that's the second point that you raised, Corinne. It means constructively and supportively have building that good relationship with the management, and especially the executive director or the CEO, who's representing the rest of the operational side of the organization. So it's mainly a relationship based effort, but taking an organization towards addressing the most pressing social issues in the community. Thank you very much, Corinne, for those words. To the BoardWalk participants, you have graduated, and then where do we go from here? Before I tell you where do we go from here, we have a lot of time. Is there any participant who would like to come on camera or come on voice and share a few words of how you felt about the program and what you have experienced? We really appreciate if there's one of you, at least one of you, could sort of let us know in your own words how you felt. Oyetunde, go ahead, please. If you are speaking, I think you're muted. Okay.
Thank you very much, Aminda. I also sincerely want to express gratitude to member of the board of MBC and the team who have put this BoardWalk series together for us to participate in it and achieve this milestone. Basically, my word of thought for this program is the fact that it had exposed some of us who are newcomers to Canada. It has also given us a bit of encouragement about the acceptability of our inclusion and integration into the system. The series and the course also is going to be a very good platform for us to also merge together our backgrounds, our diversity, our culture into the services of the community where we find ourselves, which is PIL. With all these opportunity, and I want to also believe my other participants will also agree with me, that is a real one, which is also a very key integration method for a lot of us to also give back to the community, render services, and also be able to express our passion to achieve mutual objectives and goals for both ourselves and the PIL, and also MBC, who have given us this platform to actually come into being for this integration. I want to thank you so very much. Appreciate everyone. The courses which you have exposed us to, the encouragement, the words of reasonings, the logic by which you have shared with us, I can assure you, we are going there never to disappoint you. And we're going to serve this community to make sure we achieve mutual benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tunde. I'm really thrilled and happy to hear that. Is there anybody else who would like to share a few words? Manish, go ahead, Manish.
Yes, hi. I would like to thank Volunteer MBC for the nice work they are doing, and especially linking volunteers to organizations, the not-for-profit organizations. Really appreciate their efforts. Also, I enjoyed taking the course related to the board executive members. I like the way that we were taught the fundamentals of what it is that we will have to work with if and when we get selected to a board. So appreciate all the efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manish. So BoardWalk participants, to recognize your engagement, your commitment, and the dedication to see the program into completion. It's not only the certificate that we are giving you. During the month of March, we'll also be making ready the transcripts, in other words, the courses that you followed, so that when you take these the certificate and the transcripts to an organization, they know exactly what you've been through and your skill sets and what you've learned. Not only those two, there's also one more, which is the Volunteer MBC Board Playbook, and we are still in the process of creating and printing the booklet, but we will be getting it across to you in March. This booklet is going to be packed with resources, templates, information, ideas, maybe even fun activities, so that you can use during board meetings, mainly as a companion guide throughout your rest of your engagement as board members, to really be successful in your contribution as a board member, to also maybe even add a little bit of more life and add a little bit of more new ideas into the existing board through this booklet. And you can keep adding on to it. We are going to design it in a way where you can sort of keep adding it and using it as a toolkit. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be your sidekick throughout your journey as a board member and a community leader. Sean, next slide. Now we are going to hold you to a little hook in getting that book. There's going to be a survey, and this book will be sent to everyone who complete the survey. This is mainly the project is this is a pilot project, and also it's a project that's funded by the community of Ontario through the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and the community will want to know that we've utilized the funds in the right way to do the right thing at the right time with the right to the right beneficiaries and target audience. We want to know how you felt about the program, and we all that we're asking for is your honest opinion in your experience with the program. There are a few questions that you will go through. It takes about 15 minutes to complete the survey. And once you complete the survey, you will receive a code at the end of the survey, and simply email that code to me to us at training@volunteermbc.org. The survey will give you on how to get it across to us. The code is not connected with the survey to make sure that we keep your responses anonymous as possible. And it's only a code to identify that you had completed the survey. By receiving the code, it's not connected with the survey that, the responses that you had submitted. Once you do that, and we will be able to identify who you are and then send you the, the booklet across to you. For us to get it across to you, please make sure that you visit the volunteer track, in other words, the online Peel volunteering profile, and update your most current email and the address so that we are able to somehow get it across to you. Sean, next slide. Again, talking about what's next from here, our referral service team will be in touch with you to further identify, what is it that you're really looking for in terms of getting connected with an organization. During the beginning of the program, you did share as to your most preferred organizations and the types of, board-related opportunities. But we will connect with you again to see whether, because of the program and because of, your interest, whether there's any change, whether there are any objectives that that has changed from what you communicated to us before, just to make sure that when we make the connection, it's a meaningful connection, and it's a connection where you will enjoy contributing your skill sets and your expertise as a board member to the organization. So please respond, and please get in touch with our referral service. On the flip side, what this also means to the organizations on the call today, like I said before, we are making the search for a good board member as convenient as possible. So our referral team, they know what the candidates want, they know the candidates' skill sets, the expertise that they hold, and like I said, their interests and objectives. We have a list so that when you get in touch with us, please get in touch with us. We are able to make that connection with you. So all that is left for you to do is to absorb them into your usual, board recruitment process, starting with your organization-specific screening that is, stemming from your risk management in your volunteer recruitment cycle. To the organizations, simply visit learn.volunteermbc.org/boardwalkrecruit. When you visit this website, there's a survey to fill out as to identifying what your needs are, board recruitment needs are, and then we will get in touch with you to take it from there. So having explained what's, where to go from here, we are coming to the conclusion of the program, but I'd like to leave the entire audience with another testimonial from a participant, where the participant says the content were full of real-world practical tools and techniques. We are really happy to hear that, because we come from the theory side and designing of the curriculum and figuring out what is good for you to go and practice, but knowing that it's practical for you, that makes us happy. The program was developed to accommodate the participants with any level of knowledge. That was a thought that we had, where whatever the modules that was in there, anyone should be able to grasp and then build yourself up to the capacity of becoming a board member. And finally, Volunteer MBC team were a bunch of hard-working, dedicated employees who loved what they did, and they were there whenever we had any questions or needed support. The audience today, Sean, myself, and Corinne, we were the voices who came up because of how this event is structured. But the entire team of Volunteer MBC was behind the BoardWalk participants and the BoardWalk program. Madhuri, Marina, Nadine, Robert, we were all playing different roles to make sure that the participants are taken care of, that they receive the knowledge and the insights that they should be having, and that the organizations that we are doing due justice to the organizations, that when the participants go, we have a well-trained board member who's coming to your organization. And that's the final line itself says it all. A priceless learning experience was delivered entirely free. And once again, thanks to the generous funding of the Ontario Trillium Foundation. With that, everyone, I once again, participants, congratulations. Enjoy this day. We may not have had a grand gala event in person because we are unable to do that, but through the virtual setup, we hope that we were able to communicate the depth, the gravity, and also the value of what you've been through, and how much we value that you were going through that. So with that, to everyone in the audience, thank you very much for participating. You could have given this time to your family, but you still joined to congratulate the participants. Thank you very much. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.